This is the Blood Red Podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
It's the Blood Red Podcast, courtesy of the Liverpool Echo. I'm Guy Clarke. Welcome along. A week glowing in the glory of a 5-0 win at Old Trafford is coming to a close. Let's squeeze out the last few drops of joy, shall we? We'll preview Brighton's visit to unbeaten Liverpool at Anfield too, and bring you our team selector and match predictions as ever, as well as react to Jurgen Klopp's pre-match press conference. To do all that, we have our Liverpool correspondent, Paul Gorst, the chief Ian Doyle, and resident Red Dan Kay. Well, Gorsty, throw over to you first, and good to see you back alongside myself on the pod. It's been a little while since I've last seen you.
Yeah, well, it's been over a week since I've been on the pod. I missed last Friday's and I was off on Monday. So I didn't get a chance to revel in the glory that was Monday's pod. Did listen to it back and was nodded along with everything. But yeah, it's good to be back on alongside the professional tones of Guy Clarke.
I don't know if we'll call them that, but I have to say, yeah, no, it's good to get you to sort of stick the last knife, I suppose, into the Manchester United 5-0 win. Doyle, you said on Monday that you kind of have no heart, and even your soul wasn't lit up.
No, I said I had no soul. I didn't say I had no heart.
Oh, that was it. Sorry.
Soul.
Sorry. Has your soul lit up by now, though, with reveling in that win?
Oh, it's been another game since then. One game at a time. It's in the past now. It's gone. Forgot about it.
Well, Dan, you were in the away end at Old Trafford, though. Yourself, still bouncing?
Still buzzing. It'll take a long time for the joy of this to subside. That being said, I quite like Doyley's kind of Ronnie Moran type. Don't get too ahead of yourself, big heads, because at the end of the day, you're right, Liverpool got 3 points last Sunday. But if they don't beat Brighton this weekend, then all that enthusiasm, all that optimism, all that jubilation will feel rather like a damp squib. I don't see that happening, but you will only get the true value for this win, hopefully, if it results in a trophy in May.
Okay, yeah, no, fair enough. Doyley, then I'll come back to you then midweek, back on your old stomping ground in Preston, as you were letting everyone know on Twitter, and yourself,
to Preston,
well.
to give its proper name.
Yeah, okay.
Of Central Africa.
Exactly. Man City, though, out of the League Cup. Is that going to be the chance then for the first bit of silverware this season for Liverpool, do you think?
Depends, really, doesn't it? Gorst wrote in his verdict basically saying, look, it's up to Klopp now whether he wants to actually put a bit more effort into this. And to be honest, funny enough, Si Hughes of The Athletic, formerly of our company, he made mention of the fact that Liverpool get next to nothing for winning games in the League Cup, and even if they actually win the trophy, in terms of actual money, but they get a lot more just for winning a single game in the Champions League, which sounds harsh, but that is the reality of the situation. If you want a nice new sign at the end of the season, you're more likely to want to win a group game in the Champions League than get to the final of the League Cup. That said, I think Dan's with me on this one, that the League Cup's a great competition. Like Dan, I believe it's not quite as good as the FA Cup. I saw him referring to Mr. Joseph Rimmer, who loves the League Cup. It'll be, to be fair, without getting too far ahead, but what is it? The draw's tomorrow. Everywhere's miles away if Liverpool get drawn away from home. There's nobody close. If they get a home tie against somebody like, say, Tottenham or Chelsea, it will be interesting to see what happens, what Klopp does, whether he just puts out such a second-string team again, because that game, I'm pretty right in saying it will be 22nd of December, like a couple of days before Christmas. That's when the quarter-final is, and I think Liverpool are playing, who's it, Leicester and... It was after that?
Chelsea 2nd of January.
Is it Leeds?
Leeds Boxing Day, yeah.
And of course, you're looking then at that's when Mane and Salah and Keita are going off, and it would be a bit kloppy, wouldn't it, to play all of those in this quarter final, because he knows quite well they're not going to be playing for a while, at least not for Liverpool. So it will be interesting to see what happens there. But I like the League Cup. I think Liverpool have kind of neglected for I wouldn't say good reasons, but at least there is a reason why they've done it over the last couple of years under Klopp. I think they should be going for it. I would play a few more of the more senior professionals. I think, we're going to get onto the team in a bit, I suppose, in terms of what happened at Preston, but seeing Harvey Blur play there was pretty, even for a seasoned academy watchers like myself, we were like, well, that's a bit of a big call. And I'm pretty sure Harvey Blur's never played for the under-23s, let alone for the, many games. Yes, in fact, I don't think he's played something like 12, 15 games for the under-18s because he got injured last season for the most part. I mean, there's no doubt his talent, I've seen him play, but it was a big call. But overall, Liverpool won. It wasn't a great performance. I think possibly, in answer to your question, you should take the League Cup a little bit more seriously because now, with, as you say, City out, there's still a lot of good teams in it. But it's a chance for a trophy, and it will all depend on who they get in that draw.
Yeah, obviously, of course, he swept all before them after winning the Champions League, but not the domestic cups, the League Cup and the FA Cup. Are we not now at a stage with this side of just enjoying kind of what fruits they can kind of bring in? And I suppose the League Cup is definitely one of them. It feels to me as though the team is at the peak of its powers and it should just be looking to hoover up pretty much every honour on offer.
Yeah, I think the thing with the League Cup now is it's pretty much maybe about half a dozen players for the best chance of game time, isn't it? You look at the likes of Origi and Minamino and Nico Williams, Simicast, Joe Gomez to an extent, and obviously Queven Gallagher in goal. They all know that as long as Liverpool continue in the League Cup, then they're going to be starting games. So that is probably motivation in itself to have a go. And so far, so good. Tyler Morton, I thought he was excellent in midfield the other night. He just kind of held it down at the bases. Oxlade-Chamberlain and Curtis Jones went wandering and tried to create things, and it wasn't a great game. And Klopp was speaking to a handful of journalists pitch side after the game. There was only about 4 of us, and he said as much. Said he didn't play well. He said he's got no kind of thought as to who's going to be playing in the next round, and it's too far away to be thinking about it. But you'd imagine it might be a similar 11 again, mightn't it? Obviously, whoever he picks at centre back is going to be fairly strong. The full backs are decent enough for the League Cup, and then it's all about the midfield. And as I say, Origi and Minamino will play. So will he go with a bit of a big name in that front three alongside them, or continue with what he's done so far? But yeah, it's there for them now. City are out. City have won 4 in a row, so they've drawn level with Liverpool. But there's talk of winning the 20th league title to go level with United this season. But it'd be nice to win that League Cup and just pull one clear of City and have that record again, wouldn't it? So I don't think there'll be too many tears shed if they do tumble out in the next round. But for the players who are going to be playing there, it's a big opportunity for them.
I suppose same question, Dan. Does the Liverpool need to be picking and choosing their battles this year? Obviously, a couple of years ago, it was just go for the league, everything about the league. But surely now's the time to be greedy.
Yeah, it's about cutting your cloth accordingly, isn't it? I mean, I like Gorst mentioned, I was pleased to see City go out. I didn't want City winning 5 in a row and superseding our 4 that we did between 81 and 84, which I can just about remember. There is a school of thought that says, progressing in the League Cup and winning it every year certainly hasn't done City any harm over the last few years, because I think 3 of those 4 years they won it, they also won the Premier League. However, they did, and probably to a certain extent still do, have a stronger squad with more depth to it than Liverpool. That's it. Am I right in thinking that the semi-finals are back to 2 legs?
Yeah, they are
in January.
Yeah.
See, that's another
5
thing
subs?
that I kind of. 5 subs makes a bit of a difference, but I just don't understand. And as someone who grew up with the League Cup, and first trophy I ever saw Liverpool winning at Bolton in '95, I do have a lot of affection for it, but I just think in the modern day, it's not doing itself any favours by insisting on this 2-leg semi-final. Particularly, January, obviously, there's there's the African nations, there's the chaos of the transfer window. There's potentially 2 rounds of the FA Cup, as well as league games, and 2 semi-finals to shoehorn in as well. If Liverpool were to get that far, how seriously would Klopp take it? But Liverpool's squad is better than it was 2 or 3 years ago, and if we do get the kind of draws and get through, there's every chance that the teams we play, certainly if they're City or some of the other top teams that are still left in it, might well play similar type of teams with some fringe players and some young players. So I think it's just a case of wait and see, really. But I'd like to see Liverpool go all the way and win it, but I won't be shedding too many tears if we don't.
Yeah, fair play. Right, we'll get into a few of the individuals in a moment quite quickly, but one topic I did want to go into, Doyle, and referencing the 5-0 win last weekend at the top of the show, is the fact that kind of overnight and into today, former Liverpool manager Brendan Rodgers has supposedly kind of emerged as a bit of a target for Manchester United. What do you think of that? Could you possibly see that happening at all?
Yeah, I could see that happening, but I don't think it will. Is my short answer to that. Would you like me to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, if you want to expand, yeah.
Because I don't think they're going to sack Solskjaer anytime soon. I don't think anyway. That's from everything that was being told to us by the journalists who cover United when we were speaking to them on Sunday. I think that it would be very, very difficult to get Rodgers out of Leicester unless they pay them absolute fortune. And then would Leicester really want to let him go? I'm not sure. He'd have to walk away from a pay-up or something like that. I don't know. And then there's the whole Man United question. I mean, Rodgers has got, how can I put this? If there's one manager who could manage Liverpool and then later in his career manage Manchester United, it would have to be Brendan Rodgers. He's got the characteristics to be able to do that. And to be honest, it's not our problem. It's Man United's problem.
Yeah, no, I get it. But but it is linked to Liverpool.
It is linked to Liverpool, but don't forget, it's been more than 6 years now since he's gone. Rodgers has been to Celtic, been to Leicester, and he's been back at Anfield and played games, this, that, and the other. I don't think the fans will. Whoever's sat in that dugout at Manchester United, when they turn up at Anfield, they're going to get jeered. Doesn't matter whether it's Brendan Rodgers, Solskjaer, or you. By the way, if you're interested, then I would there could be a vacancy there, although not anytime soon.
My Football Manager CV is quite impressive, to be fair, Dolly.
Is it if you won with?
I'm not going into it. I think. Yeah.
Anyway, one thing I'd say about Rodgers is he's not like a Conte. I think the United hierarchy have been a bit put off by Conte because he's a bit combustible, a bit argumentative, and if United aren't winning, he'll probably start digging out Ed Woodward and the Glazers and whoever else. Solskjaer is, a club legend and a bit of a yes man, isn't he? And I think Rodgers probably falls into that category a bit more than the Conte category. I don't think he'd overly rock the boat, but I think he's a far superior coach to Solskjaer. So I think there are a lot of plus points for Brendan Rodgers to become Manchester United manager. And I don't think his history with Liverpool would, I don't think it's a similar situation to Benitez going to Everton, where, a lot of Liverpool fans were dismayed and disappointed. I think it'd be a little bit of a shrug if Rodgers went to United. But we'll wait and see what happens, because as Doyle says, it looks like they're going to be keeping faith with Ollie at the wheel for now, and we'll see how they get on at the weekend against Tottenham.
It'll be interesting, though.
I'm sure Dan will probably start chanting away Ollie at the wheel. But anyway, yeah, what'd you say, Ian?
I was going to say, you just need Hodgson to take over at City, and then you complete the set. City, United, and Everton, all former Liverpool managers, so yeah.
And Benitez had to go to Chelsea, didn't he?
When he did, yeah. When Gorst just said then about, it's not quite the same as Benitez going to Everton, and there wouldn't be, necessarily people up in arms about it. I take it he means from the Liverpool side of things rather than the United side of things.
Yeah.
If I was a United fan, it's clearly a good young coach who's been improving as his career's gone on. But if I was a United fan, the mess that they're in, I would be asking questions. If he was to take over, well, what's he won? What's his credentials? What's his pedigree for doing that? I think it would be as entertaining as we all expected Benitez at Everton to be, and certainly which proved to be last Saturday, if Rodgers were to take over there, because they're clearly in dire straits. United, it's the whole infrastructure of the club needs changing. Like Gorst said, he is a superior coach to Solskjaer, but in terms of the strength of personality that I think is needed to really kind of revitalise that club, I think the reaction of Liverpool supporters would be very, very interesting. I think you'd be some who would take the knock a little bit and think, well, if you've worn our badge, you should never go to them. But I think there'd be others who'd be rubbing their hands together and saying this could be Solskjaer Mark II. As Doyle says, it's moot at the moment anyway. Although looking at the games they've got coming, was it Tottenham tomorrow, Man City next weekend? I think they return after the international break away to Chelsea. If he doesn't pull a result or two out from somewhere soon, they might have to make a decision. And that's been one of the key things of Solskjaer so far, hasn't he? He's been looking down the barrel a couple of times, and each time he seems to have pulled the result out, much to the delight of Liverpool supporters and City supporters and those that want to see United struggle. So that may well happen again, and he may well still be there till May. So we'll just have to wait and see.
We'd just like to point out that Brendan Rodgers is 49 in January, so he's not that young. And if he is young, then great. That means I am.
He's young in the managerial game, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know. He's been doing it for 15 years now, I think.
Yeah. So maybe he's coming into his peak years, hey? But
indeed.
Anyway,
At Old Trafford, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe.
Full circle. This is right itself.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about Jurgen Klopp's press conference, and I'll sort of throw two into one here, Gorsty, and come to you first. In terms of the midfield, obviously, Naby Keita and James Milner were both forced off at Old Trafford. Fabinho not involved and wasn't in midweek. So midfield numbers are kind of in short supply right now. Jurgen Klopp did speak about it in his press conference ahead of the game with Brighton, and I wonder if Tyler Morton has maybe put himself into contention of being involved in a matchday squad in a league game. Maybe not starting, but he's certainly impressed at Deepdale.
Quite possibly, yeah. I didn't actually think of that, but yeah, it ticks a few boxes. There's no Thiago tomorrow. On Fabinho, I think he said it's complicated, but not that complicated. But essentially, he's going to be missing tomorrow. Whatever that means. Liverpool are very guarded with the injury updates, aren't they? As they always have been, particularly around Thiago, who once again misses out. Klopp said that he'll be back to his best after the international break, essentially. Doesn't look like he's going to be going with Spain. No Milner. So who's left? Oxlade-Chamberlain, Henderson, Curtis Jones. Anyone else I've missed out?
Genie? No. No, I don't think you have.
Just those three at the moment.
Yeah.
Possibly Keita might be back, mightn't he? But if not, then why not give Tyler Morton the experience of being on the bench and showing him what it's all about? A match day Premier League squad. Certainly did enough on Wednesday night for that. I thought he was probably Liverpool's man of the match.
What do you think, Doyle?
Tyler Morton, no.
Yeah,
they're still not close yet. I don't think. Not for the Premier League anyway. He might get on the bench when they go through that spell in December when they're playing a million games. But in fact, he could possibly play in the Champions League if they've got a game left. If it's a bit of a dead rubber, possibly AC Milan. It depends how they do. But I think Keita's going to play, isn't he? Henderson's the bit of a worry over Fabinho that he's out again. So there's a mild concern, but otherwise, I think that Liverpool, that injury crisis in midfield just doesn't perhaps look as bad as people were saying it was a couple of days ago.
Yeah, what about the opportunity, Dan? We kind of half referenced it on Monday of putting Trent maybe in that kind of sixth role, the deeper of the midfield roles, and Nico Williams coming in. He certainly played well at Deepdale, Nico Williams.
He did. He's had a couple of decent little cameo performances already this season. One in was it Porto away? He came on late on and really scored. I chatted to John Aldridge earlier this week for his Echo column, and this on the back of Monday when it was looking, as Geordie termed it, Liverpool's midfield injury crisis was looking potentially quite serious because obviously we didn't know at that stage the severity of the damage to Naby Keita, and Trent moving into midfield was one of those possibilities that could be mooted if you did want to kind of play somebody slightly out of position. Another shout which I threw for, which actually came from one of my away match going mates, little lad Niall, who's commonly known as Little Legs. He suggested Joel Matip, who occasionally likes to step into midfield, which was a bit of a left field shout, but bearing in mind Liverpool are quite well stocked.
I think Theo suggested that on
I was going to say he's been listening to Theo's advice. Yeah,
somebody else with little legs.
Yeah, that's not advice to be taking, is it?
But I think it proves the point that Liverpool may have to think outside the box a little bit. We hope it doesn't come to that, because the last thing Liverpool want is history to repeat itself in terms of they didn't replace Lovren last summer and then were cursed with injuries in that particular position. A few days ago, obviously, Liverpool chose not to replace Ronaldo in the summer, and that's where the bulk of the injuries have been so far this season. As Dory said, I think Fabinho is the one that would concern you the most if it is likely to be for any particular length of time. But I would imagine that Liverpool probably just being extremely cautious at the moment, which you wouldn't argue with. So I think at the moment, I think there's enough players around that they wouldn't have to do that. But if needs, Trent's that versatile, he can play anywhere. There's obviously been a lot said about should he be put into midfield anyway. Most people don't want that to happen because he dictates games from right back. But I think for now it's a case of just wait and see and hope that the injuries aren't as bad as they seem to be.
Yeah, okay then. Gorsty, looking ahead then and kind of talking on the form Liverpool are in very quickly, it seems to have become 23 games unbeaten for the Reds off the back, obviously, of last season and the strong form. Only sort of 3 draws in the Premier League so far this season, those coming against Chelsea, Man City, and away at newly promoted Brentford as well. What are you expecting ahead of this weekend with Brighton coming to Anfield?
It's going to be a tough one, isn't it? Yeah, Klopp was at pains to stress that this was going to be a tough one, and he tends to do that quite a lot for these games that are a little bit ordinary, a little bit humdrum and routine. He wants to kind of make sure that the fans approach it in the same way the players do, to an extent. No complacency slipping into the stands, because that's when it gets a bit quiet, and that's when opposition fans or opposition teams can sense a little bit of a potential result. But I don't think he was just saying it for the sake of it this time. I think Brighton are having a really good season, aren't they, under an excellent coach in Graham Potter. And I think last season seemed to be, the general gist was, they didn't quite convert their chances last season, Brighton, and they would have been a lot higher up the table had they done so. And they seem to be doing that this season a bit more, whilst being really resolute at the back and knowing how to defend. I think only maybe City and Liverpool have conceded less, so that's a double check that. But I think that was a stat banging about, certainly last week anyway, before City went and put 4 past them. So it will be a tough one. But you're looking at it, and I seem to say this a lot. If Liverpool are serious about winning the title, then Brighton at home shouldn't pose too much of a difficult afternoon. But we shall see.
Yeah, Doyle, what are your thoughts on Brighton as well? Because I mean, to me, it always kind of comes back as the one of the first games after winning the league title. I know that was away from home, but Graham Potter does seem to get an awful lot of praise, certainly from the likes of Pep Guardiola. Recently called him the best English manager about. It's not going to be a gimme against Brighton, is it?
No, I mean, we'll get onto the game predictions and all that stuff in a bit, but can't see it being very easy. Even Liverpool won the league. The game had finished 2-1, didn't it? They were 2-0 up, and there was the red card for Alisson. And in that second half, Brighton had most of the ball. I mean, that's what... Yeah. I think they had more possession against Manchester City, didn't they? Klopp made mention of it in his press conference. He said 52% to 48%. But, Brighton had that in the game. As Ghosty said, the problem they've got is they haven't really had anybody to put it away. And defensively, they're decent. It's good news for Liverpool that Dan Burn's not playing, by the way. He didn't score the winner in the game at Anfield, but he had a very good game. I think he set up the goal, didn't he, at the far post got ahead of Trent. And so they have some decent players. Of course, Adam Lallana will be coming back as well. He'll have not a point to prove, but he'll be quite reveling in the fact that he's actually getting to play at Anfield in front of fans. First time he'll have done that in quite a long time, to be honest. I think, it is going to be tough. What made it interesting for me is when Klopp was talking in his press conference and he said, look, the difference between us losing 1-0 in the game on Saturday is there's going to be fans there. But then he said, but we have to bear in mind this is going to be a game where they're going to have a fair amount of the ball. And he didn't say it, but he kind of reading in between the lines, he was kind of suggesting the fans are going to have to get patient because it's not like Liverpool just going to knock them away 5-0 as they've done with Watford and a lower, lesser team like Manchester United. So, it is going to be one where they're probably going to have to dig in. Whether it's up to Mo Salah to get the goals, I don't know. But, I think they'll get the chances. But then I also think Brighton will as well. And as I say, it could be that rare game where Liverpool have less possession than a team at home. So that's possibly something to look out for. But Brighton's problem has been for the last 2 years is great possession, but not creating enough chances, not scoring enough goals. Liverpool have kept 6 clean sheets in 9 in the league this season. So if they can keep that up, I think they should get the win.
Yeah, what of Adam Lallana then, Dan? Coming back to Anfield and will be greeted, I'm sure, with great applause from the home support.
Yeah, I hope he starts, and I'm sure he'll get a very good reception because I think he's one of those kind of players like his great mate Jordan Henderson, who maybe at the start most supporters didn't fully appreciate what he did, how important he was to the side, to the squad. But I think it became very clear as Jurgen Klopp's reign has gone on, just how the professionalism, the discipline, the standards that the likes of Lallana, Henderson, Milner set in training week after week, month after month to these talented young players and some big money signings as well. And I think it was very clear when Lallana did leave. Obviously, his contract was extended, wasn't he, so he could be part of the end of the title season. And the tributes coming out of the club, I think, made it very, very clear just what an impact he's made. And I think it's actually quite fitting that his return to Anfield will come just after we've all been to Old Trafford, because obviously the last visit that Liverpool supporters were able to go to Old Trafford before last Sunday was when he scored that absolutely vital equaliser in October 2019 that was one of only 2 games Liverpool drew in that astonishing 38-match period between February 19 and February 20, which basically won the league. But in the title season, there'll be lots of other moments that get talked about more. But Lallana's 86th, 87th minute equaliser at the scoreboard end, I think, was a hugely, hugely important moment in that season. All right, it ended Liverpool's winning run, but it ensured they went unbeaten. And a defeat at Manchester United always feels worse than defeat almost anywhere else. Psychologically, that was a very big moment in the Liverpool title season, and that won't be forgotten, I'm sure, by the Anfield crowd tomorrow.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Right, ahead of the game, then let's crack on and get into our team selector and looking ahead to the game itself. I'll be brave and say Alisson can be between the sticks. Gorsty, I know it's a big shout there. Gorsty, what about the back four? What are you thinking?
I suppose the big question is whether Joel Matip comes back in or not. Only played 45 minutes on Wednesday, didn't he? Pre-planned substitute to give Nat Phillips a bit of a run out and also preserve Matip as well, who's played a lot of football for someone who's not too durable. But you know what? I'm going to stick with Konate. He didn't put a foot wrong at Old Trafford, so why not? And obviously Robertson and Trent on the respective sides.
Dan, what do you reckon?
I'm a huge Matip fan. And I think there were a lot of logical reasons to play him at Old Trafford, which don't necessarily apply against Brighton at home on Saturday, but may well come into being a factor on Wednesday against Atletico Madrid. So given the fact that he hasn't played much football and we know how much Klopp likes rhythm, I am going to agree with Gorsty that Konate keeps his place. Here's the other decision: does he rest one of the fullbacks? Gomez could come in and play right back, Nico Williams, but no. Liverpool are in good form. They need to maintain momentum. It's the usual fullbacks for me.
Cool. And Doyle, did I ask you on the defence?
No, you did not.
So
would you like to?
Yeah. What do you think the back four will be, Doyle?
Well, I believe Trent Alexander-Arnold will play and Andrew Robertson as well. I think Virgil van Dijk has a very good chance of making it. However, I actually think Matip will play because I think he might want to keep Konate for West Ham next week. I think you got Antonio.
Also, does Matip involved in the build-up play and breaking out from the back? We've not seen that too much from.
Got a lot of the ball.
Konate can do that as well.
Yeah, but we've not seen as much from Matip.
Well, no, but then we could have seen him, have we?
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying.
Don't try to get picky. Come on. That's what we wanted to pick him a team. You don't question these on it, do you? Right, yeah, but seriously, Matip, I think, yeah. I was a bit surprised he actually played in midweek, to be honest. I was a little bit surprised, because it was I don't know. It was, given the fact he only got 45 minutes, does suggest they're just kind of building up his minutes and his, as Dan said, his durability. So that's why I think he'll play. Great
stuff. I'll stay with you then, Doyley. What about the midfield?
Oh, well, let's have a think. Well, Henderson will play because he has to. Actually, it's easy. Henderson, Cater and Jones.
Gorsty?
Yeah, well, it depends, doesn't it, how serious that injury is to Naby Keita. I must admit, I thought it was going to be a lot worse when he got brought off on the stretcher. And then to be told it was only bruising, probably suggests that we might need to toughen up a little bit Naby Keita, but I think we knew that already. But he was in superb form for an hour at Old Trafford, so if he's fit, then he has to play. And then it's a case of Henderson, and I think probably Jones over Oxlade-Chamberlain, yeah.
And what about yourself?
Yeah, I can't really argue with them three. I mean, Oxlade-Chamberlain, I think, will be feeling that this could be an opportunity for him to kind of stake a claim this season, with Liverpool being short of bodies in midfield. I think it was always going to be a tough game for him on Wednesday night, kind of basically having to shepherd the kids through. So I think there is possibly a start. I could understand if he does get a start ahead of Keita, particularly if Klopp's not 100% about, is Naby 100% back to where he was before he got clobbered by Pogba. But I think if Keita is in any kind of shape, he's had such a dramatic couple of weeks with obviously the game in Madrid, with the pluses and minuses there. But he was he had a big part in basically all the first three Liverpool goals at Old Trafford on Sunday. And I think Klopp will give him the opportunity to build on that. And as Doyle said, there aren't an awful lot of other options there. So Henderson and Jones will make it the other two in the midfield three.
What about the forward line then, Dan? You can go with that.
It's the usual 3 from 4. I'm going to throw Sadio Mane back in. Diogo Jota's done nothing wrong, but he's had a couple of injuries himself. And so it's the traditional front three for me of Salah, Firmino and Mane.
What about yourself, Gorsty?
Yeah, I'm going to bring Mane back in for Jota, I think. I think Firmino was superb at Old Trafford. And Jota just seems to be a little bit of an away day man at the moment, doesn't he? Most of his goals come away from Anfield. So bring Mane back in and be a traditional front three, as it were.
And Doyle, to round us off?
I think it'll be Mane, Firmino and Salah. But what I would say is I do think over the coming, not in the next couple of games, but in that gap, we know after the international break in November, when there's just game after game after game after game, I think we might see a bit more of Minamino, purely on what we've seen in the League Cup games. I think he's been a bit unlucky. Origi got the Champions League game, didn't he, against AC Milan? I think pretty sure he's come on in a Premier League game as well. I think. Don't think Minamino's featured in the Premier League this season, Nancy. Just off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure he hasn't. I think you're right. Yeah, I think there's possibly scope for him to start getting some minutes, and what that then could do is you then could rotate Jota with Firmino, Minamino with Mane. I mean, it gives them a few more options, because I know they are still sticking with Minamino from everything that they've said. Look at training; you can only judge by what he does in the games. What he's done in the games, he's had 2 starts and scored 3 goals. So, what more can he do?
Cool. Right, Doyle, Gorsty and Dan, what are the score predictions that we've got ahead of the meeting then of Liverpool against Brighton and Anfield? Doyle, you first.
Thanks for the full explanation of that game that's coming up. I think I'm going to go with what it was last time there was people in. I think it'll be a tough game. I think everything that Klopp said is right. The crowd will have to be patient. Liverpool might not see as much of the ball as they normally do. They will get chances. Brighton will be quite clever at set pieces, and they will also be good at just pestering Liverpool and pressuring them, I think, a little bit, and they'll move the ball about if they go behind. I think that Liverpool will win 2-1.
Gorsty?
Do you know what? I'm going to be a little bit more optimistic. I'm actually going to go 4-0. I think Brighton are a really good football side, but I think that might just play into Liverpool's hands a little bit. And I think 1 or 2 spaces might be left open up, and Liverpool can make the most of it. Certainly on the counter-attack. Just don't think there's a team who counter-attacks like Liverpool probably in the world. So, I'll go on. Another goal fest, 4-0.
Well, last 2 in the Premier League have been 5-0, so, hey, why not? Dan, what about yourself?
I think Brighton will play very well, but they'll still lose 3-0.
Right, happy days. Right, that is it from us here then on this edition of the Blood Red podcast. Do remember, we'll be back on Monday following the game with Brighton and Hove Albion. But from myself, Guy Clarke, Dan Kay, Ian Doyle and Paul Gorst, thanks for your time and your company. It's bye for now.